Ladies and gentlemen, we're live. I want to welcome you in. Look, this is a test run here. And Robert Kowalski, you of VIP Play are my guinea pig. In fact, Robert, let's just go ahead and show people who you are, what you are. I'm bringing the graphic in here. Robert Kowalski is the GM of VIP Play. He's also an odds maker to the stars. We're going to talk about that graphic that you see on your screen right now. What VIP Play has done, and it's crazy, is they've gone ahead and they've put lines up for all 12 Tennessee games. Robert, I welcome you in. And man, I love you. I appreciate you joining, brother.
Tony, the pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate the time to be with you today. It's been a long gap in between visits to your fun place. It's very welcoming. I really enjoy taking a break away from the terminals and actually talking about all of this, because it's sometimes you take that ball and you bounce it off the wall and you don't quite know if you're stuck in a vacuum or if all of these make sense. But that's why bookmaking is so fun. You really are what they call price discovery mode pretty much every single day.
You and I were talking before we jumped on, and first of all, Robert, one thing I love about you is your effusive personality. I was told VIP Play, Will Heflin told me you also do some voice work, which doesn't surprise me. Maybe we need to talk off the air about what you charge, and because you really are gifted with your speech and your diction and all that good stuff. But you guys must be half crazy at VIP Play, because you're the first in the space in the state of Tennessee that have jumped in here with lines on all 12 Tennessee football games. Let's start here, Robert. Why don't we see, because in the NFL, I can look up a line pretty much for any game on the card, right, across the board this year, but you can't do that in college football. What's the difference?
The difference is pretty vast, and a lot of it has to do with player rosters at this point. We talked a while back about where we're entering this new phase in collegiate sports. Forget about football. It's basically the wild west with NIL and the transfer portal and everything that's happened to, well, the program. It's nothing like what it looked like. Forget about 5 years ago. It's nothing what it looked like a year ago. And that's kind of really the crux of why setting a line and doing an analysis is almost futile in a way, Tony. It's just, you have to come up initially with a number off of the body of work that the program did last year, what the conference did as a power unit unto itself, and then see if there were any real wholesale changes. I mean, it can't be more obvious than the program right here at home with the Vols. There's a lot that's really changed, and all those factors come into play. So I think that's the number one reason as to why you find it's quite difficult to make a number on a college football game, far more than pro football, Tony.
The thing I've noticed, and this is just a simpleton's view of things, but you look at like a Florida State last year, highly rated going into the season, crashed and burned. Now, obviously, they're way on one side of the spectrum because they were so transfer reliant. But yet you see these quarterbacks switch teams. It's almost like, it seems to me, that people in your spot, people on your side of the table, so to speak, the odds maker, it almost takes you like a month to really get a handle for what's going on in that sport. Is that a fair read on it?
I would go even further, Tony. It's year round. It doesn't stop. It goes from spring football and into the lead up into the schedule that's coming up in just a few weeks' time to everything in between. And there's so much that happens now outside of the actual seasonal calendar that really makes me say, okay, well, yep, we don't have a game on yet, but make sure you circle what happened here and then take a look at this move by by the way, this conference doesn't exist anymore. So how do you
Yeah,
play into
yeah,
that?
right.
Right. These are the things that I
Mhm.
constantly look at in creating any kind of a betting pool or a matchup line. And I start to chat with my colleagues about setting up an opening line. That's the beauty of it.
And then we have the concept of at Tennessee, you think everything's, kind of hunky dory, and Nico gets up and leaves
Yeah.
right at the end of spring practice. And so, you put a win total out for the Vols, and then, or you do your advance work. Like I was visiting with Phil Steele last week, and he says Tennessee probably would have been like in round, and he does in his magazine like AP. He tries to guess where the AP is going to have a team.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, probably 10 in America.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and, and it's very costly when your quarterback gets up and leaves like that. It's a game of change-o. It's where we are.
I completely agree with you, Tony. I can't help myself. Like my first step is always what happened to the quarterback, and
Yeah.
instead of I don't know, maybe it's a little pessimistic, but it's just the way I build. I kind of build from the bottom all the way on up, and I look at a program's weaknesses first, right?
Sure.
And so the first things that jumped out is okay. So Nico's gone, UCLA. So what happens now? Who's your primary option? Is it going to be Aguiar?
Mm-hmm.
Will it be the redshirt freshman? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's McIntyre. I know the last two's probably very improbable, not
Right.
impossible, just
Right.
improbable.
Right.
Uh, you know, so Aguiar kind of brings that dual threat ability. His ball security, I have concerns over. And then obviously, what about offensive line depth? Right, that's my second thing I look at. It's serviceable, but it really lacks an elite backup strength, Tony. Right, and then any injuries could significantly disrupt the pocket protection and the run blocking. Doesn't help where you go back to number one, right? Where you're looking at the quarterback and experience, this is going to only make matters worse. And then the third, I said, okay, well, what are we looking at in the defense? So the secondary and experience. You have some key departures in the secondary.
Right.
DL leaves some holes and some situational coverage. And then I'm wondering like what's going to happen. So now you look at the schedule because of that. So now you're looking at high quality passing attacks.
So,
Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama. How's that going to break into
yeah.
what I look at in setting at least the very least from the very top a season win total, which for all intents and purposes 9 seems to be like that magic number right now, Tony.
Yeah. In fact, a friend of mine that's really, really into the gambling thing took your numbers, crunched them, and said your win predictability is 8.7 for Tennessee based on the math you've done when you look at the juice across the board.
Yep.
And you guys quantify everything, which is remarkable to me because I'm not numerically oriented at all, but we got some numbers on the board here. So let's look at them. This is, if you go to the specials tab, and we by no means are doing an ad for VIP play today. I invited Robert on today to really super serve the Tennessee football fan that wants to get a Vegas look
Yeah.
at how they think the 12 game schedule is going to play out, what it looks like at this date. And again, this is an incomplete picture because, as he was saying, the target in college football is a moving target. But we start with Syracuse on the 30th of August. The line in that game is Tennessee minus 13.5. It's played on a neutral field
Yeah.
in Atlanta, and Tennessee is better than a 5-1 favorite to win the football game, according to your calculations. Let me ask you about that Syracuse club. It looks like last year, if they keep that McCord kid at quarterback, you say you start there and you kind of build out. We're probably talking about a much different line here, but they really got hit hard in the offseason, didn't they?
They completely did, Tony. It's just the way of the world right now. You have to just say to yourself, well, who are we really at this point? Can we match up in lockstep? And in some cases, some programs just have to openly admit and say, well, this is the way this operates now. Can we be best in our conference? Forget about making the playoff at this point. Can we compete in our conference? Much less play against a power four like Tennessee.
Yeah.
Here with the game against Cuse, neutral site, they're favored by nearly 2 touchdowns. I would probably think as a top 15 national team against a group of 5, you got to come out and dominate this first game, right? And so initially, I spoke to a couple of colleagues and I said, do we come out under a 2 touchdown number? And they clearly said, yeah, because if you go above it, you'll probably get nothing but Cuse money, I would think. So this is the beauty, again, to kind of call back to the top of our show, Tony. It's all price discovery. You set out an opening number, and eventually you'll get bumped into the right position where it's supposed to be before kickoff. Really, the question here, obviously, I would think they're going to dominate here, but you still want to wait and see after the game is complete. Did they cover, that opening number? And I thought it was going to be closer to 2 touchdowns here.
And then the following week, a bye game with East Tennessee State. You put a number on it at 48.5. How do you arrive at a number for a game like that in these essential kicking scrimmages that unfortunately are a way of life in the major college football game that we do not have in its pro counterpart? We just don't. And let's say this about these games. These games are a waste of time. They're a waste of money, but people still want to bet on their team and they still want to be able to place a wager. So you've put a number next to it, but how do you arrive at that, Robert?
I got to tell you, sometimes when you look at a matchup and an opponent like this, Tony, it's come out with something. And in my group on my table, I say, well, okay, 7 touchdowns. What can we say 7 touchdowns? Do they have enough time to win by more than 7 touchdowns?
Yeah.
And so I get no, I get a no, I get a yes. I say maybe. So instead of 7 times 7, 49, I say, well, instead of it being 49.5, we make it 48.5. So far, Tony, no one's laying, no one's taking. So it's probably for the best, and we'll probably see how it ends up playing out. But that's kind of how we do the math. We look at a key number, extrapolate out, see how much time they're going to have in this game. How much desire do they have to play in this game, especially in the second half, right? Do they go out and, are they up 35-0 at the end of the half, right? And so you say, okay, well, do they cool off the jets, or, do they, keep all the starters in and, figure out from there? Won't be the first time I make a bad number, Tony.
Hey, we don't know. We're joined by our man, Robert Killer Kowalski, VIP Play. They have lines out again, and we'll take you to really the first real signature test for the Vols.
Yeah.
And Robert, this is on the 13th, a game in Knoxville against the Georgia Bulldogs. Going to be a packed house. Going to be an interesting opportunity, a credibility opportunity for Tennessee.
Yeah.
The line here, you have it at 7.5. I got to tell you, in years past, it's been a lot higher than that. Is this indicative of the fact that the gap is closing between these two programs?
Correct. It is. Obviously, it's a tough SEC rivalry game. 1 touchdown favorite was about as much of a pill that we could swallow on this one. And actually, I had some thoughts to even go less than the 7. I know it's 7.5 now, but initially we were thinking, what if we make it 6.5? So it would even be a tighter point spread in this one. It's going to be a close game. And I feel that right now, initially when we created that number, we didn't want to offer more against the spread value than less in this one. And that was our decision. Initially, we wanted it to make it 6.5. We wanted to sit on that prime number 7. So 7.5 is where it's currently at, Tony.
Mike Huguenin, who worked with the Sporting News 30 years ago when I came across him, is a guy that's real sick with college football, okay? And Hughie shared with me the other day just one observation, which is these teams at what he considers the top tier teams in the league, all have question marks at quarterback.
Yeah.
And we're going to bounce around here for the purposes of this conversation, because there are two what I would call games that most Tennessee fans look at and go, okay, we'll build out, like your term, and we'll start with our losses first. Georgia game in Knoxville is probably a game you're going to lose. The game at Alabama, another signature game, but we don't know a thing about their quarterback.
No.
Robert, we don't know a damn thing about him. Besides that his father's a college coach and he's been on their campus for 4 years. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing when you think about the top of our league right now.
No doubt. I had a feeling that this was a similar situation as we talked about with Georgia. Like, do we give up more points? Are we giving Alabama more credit than they should have? Is this, I even had someone mention, is this that classic road trap? Tennessee being an underdog by this margin kind of fits form, Tony. The question here is, will the defense be able to, at the very least, get some outside containment and offer up some pressure so that doesn't really run up? I think that this is a game where if the total number of points goes higher and higher, this is where you start to think Alabama could start to run away with it. Question marks do definitely lie here, Tony, because we really don't know just quite yet, and this game's not for weeks into the season. I would make this number significantly different just after the first 2 games of the season. So I don't think that we're going to have a line adjustment occur after each week. But, right now, 12.5 feels to me like it's just right.
How much do lines adjust? Like, for instance, last year, we were tracking this in real time. Again, my guy, Mr. C, is really, really into this, as you know, certain people are, and really follows the markets. And correct me if I'm wrong, last year, like Florida State's a good example. There were some teams after 3 and 4 weeks that you guys had to adjust 13, 14, 15 points from power rating perspective, right? Based on what you saw.
Based on what you saw. You have to, and it's not going to be uncommon to see a key player just decide, this is it. I'm good. Key contributor, maybe a quarterback, just decides I'm done with this program. I'm out. And now you got to figure out who's the backup. What's the difference in the value of player A versus player B, and that's where you start to see some significant downturns. Plus, hey, you see this as well. There's just unfortunately a rash of suspensions that happen, and it could happen not to 1, but to 3, 4, 5, 7 players, and they could all be on the defense. Now what happens? You take the game off the board and say to yourself, now what?
Well, how about this, right? We're in the transfer portal era. The one thing that is for sure that no one can convince me isn't, these power teams don't stock the players they once did. A few injuries, Robert. You get into a second-team linebacker, a third-team linebacker, a second-team defensive back. At Alabama back in the day, they would stack those guys, and you would see very little drop-off. These days, you get into a defensive weakness against these opponents, and they can really exploit it. It's it makes what you do very difficult. And to the sports gambler, it would seem like if they're really paying attention, they can make some money here.
Education and knowledge of a program. That's why when I first got started in this gig, I saw this massive landscape of collegiate football. I said, okay, I'm overwhelmed already, and I'm just a couple of days into this. So my teachers said, don't look at all of it. Just pick a conference, pick one conference, and just really think about that one and concentrate on those programs just in that conference. Being out in Nevada, I said, well, okay, let's just do the Mountain West. It might not be the most popular. Actually, it's not popular at all. And we could just take a look at that and see, well, who's here, who's returning. And it made things an awful lot easier to just concentrate. I guess I'm giving a little bit of advice to those that are maybe just breaking into, how to handicap football, but it almost really just makes it simple that way. If you just find one conference and concentrate there and see where those programs adjust themselves up, down, or stay neutral. It kind of makes things a lot easier when you start to see it from a conference play perspective, Tony.
I would love to bring you back because when you talk about conference play, the I asked you back a few weeks back to do an exercise with me, and God knows you're not busy enough. I mean, I'm sure you don't wear enough hats doing what you're doing, Robert. But uh, you know, you had sent me a deal where if we took the Southeastern Conference teams
Yeah.
and matched them against the Big Ten teams,
Yes.
you had told me after you were done, you said, that was a very interesting and what the numbers would be. I'd love to bring you back and us do a video on that because we're getting ready here to look at Tennessee against the middle of the league. This Mississippi State, this
Yeah.
Arkansas. Last year, Arkansas bit them. Last year, I was reminded today on my daily show that Kentucky's one win of the year last year kept Ole Miss out of the playoffs.
How about that?
These are things that Big Ten teams, by and large, don't face week in and week out. Robert,
Yeah.
it's a different animal in the SEC, isn't it?
Completely different, and it just makes, if you can't see the writing on the wall, I'll go ahead and put really huge spotlights on it.
Yeah.
This is not going to be the football game that you will know in just 24 months, 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
This is a constantly evolving league, a way of play that's going to continue to adjust itself. I continuously have said, if this is what has happened in the past, I can see no other way but for the inevitability of more and more consolidation until we get to a point where we have a one mega conference, possibly, where there's multiple, in divisions, or if we just look at one entity that has several conferences, you could build it out however you want. You can, theorize from there, but there's going to be a significant amount of more change. And you're absolutely right. One game versus, a conference out of conference game to another really does make a difference in whether or not you make the college football playoff.
It's remarkable because and these swing games,
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee's got a couple of them on the schedule that determine whether or not you have a really good year, a very good year, perhaps a great year. Everybody is kind of looking at this in all these leagues, but we'll take this one, for instance, just to kind of show you what you're dealing with in this conference. And again, we're back to the spirit of unpredictability as our odds maker with VIP play, Robert Kowalski, joins. That Oklahoma game, Tennessee went to Oklahoma last year, featured some of the worst quarterback play in a Division One game I've ever seen. The kid that started at Oklahoma is now at Auburn, where he's going to try and reclaim his career. The kid that started for Tennessee is now out on the left coast at UCLA, who I'm calling Nico Nerfball because now the Vols have Joey Football from UCLA. So, but here we are, Oklahoma. Tennessee is -3.5 in the game, which means, Robert, on a neutral field, and explain this to folks, on a neutral field, this means this game is a straight coin flip. So these teams will lay right on top of each other, yes?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought up that real important factor. It's a matter of fact, it's something that Will Heflin and I just talked about on Friday. What does home field advantage mean today in not only pro football but college football? And I sometimes would be able to say I could even make a case for home field even being worth up to 4.5 points, but those are outliers. That would be like the LSU's of the world, the Penn State whiteout games of the world. Those maybe something with high altitude early in the season, like in Utah. But for you're absolutely right. 3 seems to be like a really nice sweet spot here. For the Vols, especially knowing that this is an event that is, playing against a rival that is going to have a significant powerhouse at home event. I would probably think this is one where just the total is going to be really revved up high. And the question now is going to be, it's late in the season.
Yeah.
How much deterioration, what kind of beat down of the programs, having the kind of calls back to what you said, Tony. How deep are you of a program? Do you have
Right.
backups that could come in and step in case injuries occur, or who knows, just dropouts of the program where it's you need to start to rely on the B team in some cases. November
Another
1st is a long ways away. An awful lot of
oh,
damage could happen before then.
and the Mateer guy and Joey Football, to some
Yeah,
extent, these guys are runaround guys a little bit. These guys
yeah,
are not afraid to run. And at this level, which is the closest thing you get to the NFL in this league, you can get pretty beat up. Now, I'm not going to compare either guy to Diego Pavia, but looking at Diego Pavia early in the year when he led them to the upset of Alabama, and then the quarterback Tennessee saw at the end of the year when he was a shell of himself. It's difficult in this league when you run around. And the Mateer kid comes from Washington State. He brings his offensive coordinator with him. I'm sure they're going to have some great moments early in the year. But
yes,
who knows what's going on with his program and that program in November? Who knows? Because they have a
yeah.
very difficult schedule, Robert.
Very, very, and you're not. And again, I love factoring in what happens to depth, right?
Yeah.
Is this offensive line that you trained up, you did all of the conditioning, all of the training to get yourself to the first opening kickoff. You could be the very next play, stuck a left tackle. You could be stuck a center, and now everything that you had, you have to hope that what's behind is just as ready to step up as you had built all the way up into this to the very opening day. It's and a lot of people say hope is not a business plan, but in some cases the coordinators are saying, well, I hope.
Well, and you know what? Hope's not a bad thing because Tennessee, the next swing game I want to look at with you, and again, VIP play has odds for every single Tennessee football game. They're exclusive odds that are up. And Robert, nice enough to join us. But at the end of the day, this Florida game is extremely interesting because we talk about schedules. Robert, they are playing an impossible schedule this year. And who knows what's going to be left of them by the time Tennessee gets there. And I'll give you one other factor here. Um, when Tennessee and Florida play, and I'm looking at a number that Brian Hartman has that we're going to put up at our blog at Tclub.team tomorrow. He's got a write up on this, but I'm going to read this to you. Tennessee is 7-3 all time versus Florida when the game is played in November.
Huh.
This year's game falls on November 22. The losses were the COVID season, the 69 Gator Bowl, and back in 1954. But Tennessee 3-0 all time post November 1st game, including a game in 2001, which had to be rescheduled due to 9/11, which was played in early December. And I was there for that game. The Vols were a 17-point underdog in that game and went there and won. And Robert, again, the number 2.5, just like that Oklahoma game, which means on a neutral field, this is a straight coin flip. What's left of Florida by the time they play this game?
So such a great point. This is and as we get further and further out into the calendar, you really start to say, boy, is is this going to be anything resembling the number when we get to kickoff? I
Yeah.
would probably
Yeah.
guess not even close. I really doubt it. And the question is, motivation. What do they have left to play for? Does it matter? Of course, you still play games at full speed. That's the only way you could play a football game. It's just the nature of the sport. But I really think that if I had to say today, both programs saying that we know what their season win totals are, and you figure, okay, if everything plays itself out and they are moving their way to a seeding in conference play or playoff time, this matters how, in which way, who would be favorite because of this scenario. I actually didn't. How about this? I just learned right now those incredible stats because I don't look back that far. I try and keep my lens a little tight, not too tight, but I would really kind of concentrate on what happened in the season previous. and did it match up to what I'm seeing right now? So I don't even go far back that out in my scope. Uh, so yeah, the number could even be significantly higher than where I'm at right now. Just basically a field goal game, Tony.
It's really, really interesting stuff. It's been great visiting with you. Is there anything else that you would care to impart to the viewer slash listener that we haven't shared here? Any other thoughts here as somebody approaches the college football season and how to invest their money when they're having fun following the sport?
That's exactly it, right? You want to have some fun and enjoyment in what you do because it's time that you have to dedicate to it. You have to really educate yourself, and I think I want to come back to the point that I made in regards to just don't spread yourself out too thin. Find a conference. Here we are. We're an SEC country. Let's concentrate just on this conference. See every program, what they did to their selves, from offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff. Did a new quarterback, like you mentioned, from Washington State, did a new quarterback come in and bring in their favorite coach? That kind of matters.
Mhm,
These are the things that you want to take a look at and give yourself an edge to have a better education towards making your own line.
mhm.
Don't make mine. Don't look at mine. Make yours first, and then see how close you get to a bookmaker's number or another source's number, and say, "Wow, I was really off on that. I wonder why." Let me just make a circle of that and see what happens on Sunday morning when I review my results. You start to say to yourself, "Hey, you know what? Everyone here had this game, as a 7-point decision. I had this one far, far tighter. What do you know? It ended up becoming a 1-point game." So give yourself a pat on the back there. So if I had to come back and say one final thought here is take a look at one conference, concentrate there, become a master of that conference. You get so much better making odds yourself than having to take a look at someone else's first.
Well, and Robert, I really appreciate your time. It's great talking with you. You're not going to brag on yourself. I was talking with superstar Will Heflin, and I call him the superstar. He tells me that you are the defending champion in some odds maker thing. You pick games against the odds makers in Vegas. Tell me about this because I'm going to drag this out of you here at the end. I want this
Fine,
because I want
Tony.
people to understand and realize who they're dealing with in you, because not only are you in the middle of this and in the science of setting these numbers, but you're also somebody that's pretty damn good at picking games.
Well,
You give me a few touts, I'm going to listen. So share with me what you did and if what Will told me is true. What's he talking about?
Tony, all right, you did it. You pulled it out of me. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to say it. So there's if you go on and you could find do a Google search for Gaming Today if you haven't heard about them. They've been around forever as a periodical. They're now in digital form, and every fall they have the bookies battle, which is pro football, and every bookie that participates has to make a pick against the spread of every single NFL game, not on Saturday, not on Sunday morning. You have to submit your picks on Monday, well before any kind of line moves happen or injury news or whatever have you, weather. So you have to make your pick against the spread for every single NFL game for every week against the spread. And I think I clipped it was, I don't want to say, I think it was about 58% against the spread. So if you say
Woo-hoo!
50,
Wow. Wow.
if you do 55%, you had a very good successful year. If, talking at least from from your wallet,
Yeah.
but it's difficult because of when you have to make the picks. So it was a good run on underdogs this season. For me, my philosophy always to say, if you give me points, I'm never going to say, why did you give it to me? I always just take it first and then think about, okay, did I make the right call here? It just so happened to be that one season when I bested every one of my colleagues, that the underdogs were a very, very right pick pretty much every single week, Tony.
Will told me, because I said, well, what about last year? He said, Tony, they didn't do it last year, so you're dealing with Killer Kowalski as a defending champion. I mean, they don't just call Killer Kowalski the wrestler Killer. We got two Killer Kowalskis now. We got a guy right there in Nevada who knows exactly what he's doing. And listen, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you jumping in with us. It has been, and I want to get a letter grade from you, because I was telling you, and I'll lay bare here for the viewer of this. I've never done one of these.
Yes.
I've never handled the controls like I just did. What letter grade do you give me, just having never done this?
If there was an A+ alpha, I would give it out right now, Tony.
Stop it.
The transitions, everything just flowed so easy. You made this so easy for me. I'm so grateful for you guiding us along and having the viewer being able to see everything in real time. It was very, very fun to take part in this. I'm very grateful, Tony. Thank you.
Let me ask you, now that we're on the subject, would you come back if we did a presentation on that mythical Big Ten SEC matchup? And then I want to know from you, like, what the odds are, but then I would like to know from you who would win these particular matchups if they were played on the field. Would you do that with me and say in a few weeks?
Tony, it'd be a pleasure and an honor.
Really?
Yes, it would.
You're my guy, man. Now, I really appreciate you, though, Robert. And again, you can check them out over at VIP Play. Download the app. In the state of Tennessee, those viewing us outside the state of Tennessee, are we in any other states, Robert?
Tennessee is exclusive, Tony.
Okay, so we're Tennessee exclusive, and coming soon, maybe to a theater near you. I don't know. I don't. I'm gonna stop before I get myself in trouble. But Robert, thanks, man. My best to you.
Cheers, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to encourage you viewing this, like and subscribe and share, and you'll see more content like this. Like, subscribe, and share, and help us to continue to grow. But I want to thank Killer Kowalski, and I thank you for watching with us today. Check us out over at Tclub.team. Again, Tclub.team. And Robert, on the way out, if they want to view what you guys do at the end of the week, how do they see what you do?
Yeah, we're actually starting to not only appear on our own stream, which you could find on X at VIP Play, but we're also going to start to take that feed and turn it into podcast form. So you'll be able to download and listen. Actually, we just dropped our first ever podcast form of our show.
Nice.
That happened just last Friday. A great breakdown of college football season to come. We did talk about the value of home field advantage in college and pro. So you could go ahead and listen that in wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get yours. You'll be able to find us on VIP Play.
And it's called, what's the podcast called?
The VIP Play Today Show.
All right, VIP Play Today. I like it. And I don't know what I'm calling this, but I'm calling it something. So thank you, my brother. Hey, great having you.
Thanks so much, Tony.
Robert Kowalski, one more time. Thank you for watching. And fun stuff.